Just so many good lines in the poem. I feel like, love this line. It's not easier to want to feel anything when you're always being touched.
Yeah.
That is just a fantastic line. There's many of them, all throughout the poem. After reading it the second time, I actually understand what you mean when you say the poem is disjointed, because it is, it's like this collection of good pieces, that are like out of order, and disjointed. That was a great word that you used. I think that's what you used. So as far as suggestions go, I would say to decide whether you're going to tell the story or criticize people who are judging her, because there's two voices going on in the poem, right? The voice of the critical observer, and then the voice of the person who wants to tell this woman's story. And I think that's what you should decide, which one you're going to tell. And then once you decide, let's say you're going to tell the story, then I think you should try to take out any lines where you're giving analysis of the story as the storyteller. For example, you say, she needs money to eat, sleep, buy spandex, and stay high because the pain hurts too much. I can figure that out on my own, right? After hearing, the previous line. Just any lines where you're trying to explain. You're telling. I think there's a difference between you hear cliches that they tell writers, say, show don't tell, meaning show us the characters and what they're going through without necessarily telling us why everything is happening. So my suggestion is, you very well could just have two poems. Here, one where you're criticizing people who criticize women like this, and one where you're telling the story of what happened to her. But if you choose to blend them, right? If you choose to blend lines like these lies are spread throughout the colored communities, that's a criticism from the speaker in the poem, and that's a different voice than the storytelling voice. And so, but I'm if you're going to do that, if you're going to tell her story and criticize the men and preachers who take advantage of her and judge her, then I think you should order it. Maybe a piece of the story, and then, a stanza of criticism, then another piece of the story, because I think as a reader, what I want is the story. I love these critical lines because they're eloquent, right? They sound good. But really, I want to hear the story and then come to my own conclusions, about the people. Now, what you could do, I don't want to create this what I heard described as choice overload. When you give people 9 choices and then tell them to pick one. But I just think when you're revising this poem, the real task is going to be blending the narrative and the criticism. And I'm inclined to tell you to take one of them out. But how, let's say, James Baldwin's really good at this. If Bill Street Could Talk just came out, so you could do this, right? But
which is amazing as well.
yes,
Amazing.
you could rather than saying these lies are being spread throughout the color communities, right? You could let the characters tell the lies. You know what I mean? By that I mean, all these messages or judgments could be a part of the actual story. Weaved into the story, right? Because the speaker, you're telling this story, but you're also telling us what we should think about the characters in the story.
And see, I think that's where I need to improve on, because in one of the versions, she actually told me that that's what was told to her.
Mm-hmm.
That they told her that, you know, this is why she's in a predicament, because she's not as faithful, and black people aren't as faithful. So maybe I can. Well,
Why don't you switch it to I? Why not tell it from like her standpoint? Like take on her. She becomes the narrator.
And then you could say lines like, you know, they spread lies on me. You know, the missionaries and young girls to advance for missionary position. I think that would be a good way to incorporate like the story that she's telling and
talk about
her own criticism of these men. Yeah, this is a conundrum. I say, but I'm gonna let other people chime in. I think you should take the first stanza all the way out. It's kind of like to me, this is word on the street is that people who look like her will always suffer. Boom. That's a great opening line. And I think the first stanza is kind of like the on-ramps to the poem, right? You're going like 10 miles an hour trying to get to 60.
But don't throw that first stanza away. Use
Yeah.
it in something else, because I love that. The prayer moving like wounded birds. That was phenomenal.
That first line could be the title of your poem. You know, the first line could be the title, and then take out these other three. Go ahead. All right. Y'all talk. Comments on the poem.
I guess to piggyback off of what you were saying, I kind of thought the same thing too about it being separate poems. I kind of thought it went together. I like the idea of putting it in the first person though, because that makes it more personal. I thought like the part where it starts, where do prostitutes' tears go when they fall, that to me sounds like a part 2 of the same poem, but its own like separate poem. So like if I were to see this in a book, I would expect to see like this on one side of the page, and then part 2, like it just says part 2, and like this would be on the other side of the page, and it's like a follow-up to the personability, and then that part 2 is the criticism. Yeah, that's the only.
So,
You
I'm just jumping. I think the way that poem ends is probably the best part of the poem. In my personal opinion, I love the way you tell the story, but I like how you give, how you're looking for refuge for the person. Like, where's her refuge? And how and I feel like if you did switch it to the first person, like the desperation will come out in that moment. Like you're going through this story, you're like, this desperation comes out. Like, where do I go? Where do prostitutes go when they fail? You know, when they fall? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the desperation will really come out. And then like, yeah, and then you ended up like, you know, someone asked me one night under, you know. Anyway, I think that's just
Changing the speaker of the poem to the first person, that's the solution. That's the solution. Then everything else makes sense, because to me the question is like, who's the speaker and who's the audience? Because that's to me the wavering. But anyway, yeah.
If you gestured to me, and I was like, I actually, at risk of giving you too many options. Have you ever heard of a contrapuntal poem?
Oh my god.
No. But like, you know, when you read this though, it would work perfectly. So if you're freaking out, and you are like, you're just ready to scrap it, the whole thing, which I don't recommend at all because I love this just as is, but it would work perfectly to do this as a contrapuntal poem. You should look it up. That's a contrapuntal poem. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Contra what?
it's something you can't spell.
It's CONTRAPUNTAL, sir. And check it out. Super flippin' dope. But I read it and then I was reading it as if I was gonna split it up, and I was like, oh shit, girl. So take a look.
Only problem with that though is if your audience is intended to be people who are kind of poetry connoisseurs, and that works perfectly. Otherwise, you probably have to explain somehow like how the method of reading it if you wanted to turn it into a contrapuntal opera.
Which is not a problem, she can
But
put
like
this on
this
the.
would be, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I think this is so powerful, so timely. And it also reminded me of when the serial killer was going on. And people were saying that.
Yeah.
And they weren't concerned because, oh, well, you know, they're drug addicts or they're whatever. And that's why he could go on for so long killing these women, because they were, in other people's minds, they were throwaway women. So, I loved it. I pretty much agree with everything he said, because this first paragraph was like, first stanza was like, but yeah, it is so powerful. It's very powerful, very powerful.
All right.
Thank you.